These are the non-negotiables. These are the bare minimums that you must not neglect if you want to elevate into the upper echelons. I feel as though on self-development, and I see this across the YouTube space a lot, especially in this niche, in this industry, as you might say, people like to overcomplicate things. People like to overcomplicate things, and what ends up happening is we overwhelm the new starters. We overwhelm those that are looking to get on self-improvement, or even those that are going through struggles and obstacles. It is not needed to be overcomplicated. Don't have these very strict routines. Of course, have a structure, have a skeleton in terms of roughly when you wake up, roughly when you go to sleep, etc. But I promise you, with regards to focusing on the 1%, that comes at a later stage. You cannot neglect these bare minimums that I'm about to divulge and cover in a second, because if you do the basics, the rest will take care of itself. You will find yourself on the correct path, on the correct trajectory. So for me, it's about getting the fundamentals, laying the foundations, getting the basics right. So here I've got a list of the bare minimums, and of course, these are most of them will be basic. Most of them are trivial. You'll know most of them, but it's just a constant reminder to you guys that you need to be on top of this, that you need to be consistent, because it's not something that you do once in a blue moon. It's not something that you do once and then you just chuck away in a corner. No, to be a high value man, you have to keep on top of it. You have to do on a consistent basis that will ultimately compound in the long run. So without further ado, the first is very simple, and it's training weights. Let's just get the simple ones out of the way. If you are not doing rigorous exercise at least 3-4 times a week, there is serious questions that need to be asked. There is serious questions that need to be asked. Now, I know that some people are going to say, yeah, but I'm busy and I have a family to look after and I work 12 hours a day in the office. And look, granted, many of us have difficult lives. I certainly have a difficult life as well. I train an hour a day outside of Sundays, where Sundays I take it easy. I only do 15-20 minutes. But the point is, I'm always doing something every day. I personally would recommend that you guys do 6-7 times a week. But I know that can be quite difficult with our busy schedule. So at least 3 to 4 times a week. But if you're telling me you don't have 3 to 4 hours a week, not a day, 3 to 4 hours a week to prioritize, to allocate to exercise, then you seriously need to evaluate what you do on a day-to-day basis, because it's not that you don't have time. It could be a lack of discipline. It could be the fact that you're lazy. But more importantly, what that tells me and what that informs me is that you're not very efficient with the 24 hours that you have. You might be working 12 hours. That's fine. But what are you doing for the other 12 hours? Fine, you might sleep 7 to 8 hours. What are you doing for the other 4 hours, right? A lot of you guys aren't going to be working 12 hours in addition to that as well. And it doesn't necessarily have to be an hour a day. It could be half an hour a day. So if you're telling me you don't have half an hour a day to allocate to exercise, then that tells me you're extremely inefficient with your time. You have a lack of discipline and you don't take your health seriously. I've spoken about the importance of the body being a vessel. You know, I don't drink alcohol at all. I know a lot of people do. I ask them why. People say it's for the social aspect. My birthday went in May, right? My birthday's in May, on the 3rd of May. Didn't have a single drop of alcohol. Every single person around me had basically drunk, had enormous consumptions of alcohol. That's fine, it's their prerogative. But this notion that you have to have alcohol to be sociable is nonsensical. But I digress. Train weights. There is absolutely no excuse. It is a non-negotiable. I don't want to hear excuses. That is a non-negotiable. It is the bare minimum. Forget the, I'm not going to touch receipts because it has chemicals that might lower my testosterone by 2.3%. Forget all the little things that are almost negligible. Think about the things that are fundamental, that are going to boost your testosterone, that's going to have an impact on your mind. Second, and it ties in beautifully, is walking. Walking is so underrated. For me personally, I live a 15-minute walk from my train station that gets me into central London to commute to work. Day and night, every single day. I could get a bus. There's a bus stop that is very close to where I live. I could get a bus stop that's about 200 yards, 200 to 300 meters from literally my door, that gets me 3-4 stops, 7 to 8 minutes, straight outside the station. I could do that every single morning and refuse to walk. No matter if it's snowing, raining or sunny, I'm still walking 15 minutes to the train station. Why? Because it's important, especially early in the morning. If it's the first thing that you do, even better, spectacular. It is so underrated. It is so crucial. Walking is so important. Ideally without music or podcasts or listening to anything, less stimulation, the better. Just to breathe in the oxygen, the nature, hearing the birds whistling and making noises left, right and centre. Early in the morning, the better. It's better for your circadian rhythm as well. So the benefits are absolutely profound. The third, again, I've told you, these are the fundamentals. Sleeping 7 hours a day. People talk about how testosterone levels and blah, blah, blah decreases year on year. The actual average of testosterone is decreasing year on year, and how our great grandparents had high levels of testosterone. All of that, I concur, because it's a fact. The reason why, part of the reason why, is because we are no longer doing the fundamentals. We're not walking like we used to. We're not training weights on a continuous basis. And the third one is we're not sleeping at least 7 hours a day. You know, a lot of us are sleeping 5 to 6 hours. You might lay in bed for 8 hours, but how much of those hours were you actually sleeping? How much of that was REM sleep? How much of that was deep sleep? These are questions you have to ask yourself. Have you asked yourself how many of those hours where you lay in bed, they're actually deep sleep? Do you look on your phone and scroll through TikTok, the last thing before you close your eyes? These are questions that you have to ask yourself. You know, if your testosterone is low, you have to analyze things like your sleep. These are aspects that you have to delve into. And sleeping 7 hours a day is an absolute bare minimum. Absolute bare minimum. Ideally 8 hours, but ideally, I know that a lot of us have busy lives, personally for me, so I can't really afford to sleep 8 hours. So I only sleep 7, but bare minimum, you guys should be sleeping 7 hours. Fourth one, firm handshake. Firm handshake. Dan Pena, who is a Mexican, I believe, a Mexican multi-billionaire, the angry guy that's pretty much all over shorts and YouTube, pops around here and there and he's screaming all the time. Very wealthy and successful man, allegedly. He spoke about the power of a firm handshake, and basically what he was saying was that back in the olden days, sort of 3-4 generations before our time, masculine men so to speak, used to have very firm handshakes. And in terms of the measurement in today's society, in today's generation, the firmness of the handshake has significantly decreased. And again, that ties in terms of the linear side, is directly proportional to our testosterone levels plummeting as well. So a firm handshake is important. There is nothing worse than being suited and booted, which I'll get onto in a minute, smelling like $1 million. You train well, you meet a guy for the first time. It could be a job interview, it could be meeting a friend for the first time, friend of a friend, a stranger, and you've got a flimsy ass handshake. Used to be me. Honestly, there is nothing more of a turn off than having a very flimsy handshake. Have a firm handshake, strong eye contact, maintain that strong eye contact, smell good, dress well, tailored suit, firm handshake. That's all you need, firm handshake. Keeping to your words. It's sort of a lost art, I find, especially in today's society. People used to be men of their words. You know, they used to stick to their word. If they said they were going to do something, they would always do it. And they would do a proper job in addition to that as well. I feel as though people will say, yeah, I'll get that assignment done. That project will be given to you by the close of the day. And there's always a reason. There's always an excuse. A famous man, a wise man once said, if you want to do something, you'll find a way. If not, you'll find an excuse. And it's the same thing. But it's not even that. It's discipline. There's certain things that we don't want to do, that we find arduous, that we find difficult, mundane, monotonous, but you still find a way to get the job done because you told that individual that it will be done by 5 p.m. that day. It's just getting the job done. It's being a man of your word. And that's how you command respect in the future, because then that individual or those group of individuals will go, actually, this man is a man of his word. He told me that he would get this done by this point, and he actually managed to get it done. He pulled it off. He said that he would start this business within 6 months, and fair play, he actually pulled it off. He managed it. Be known as the guy that gets the job done. Be known as the guy that handles business. Be known as the guy that, yeah, he'll handle it. He's a man of his word. That is the type of man that you want to be associated with. Dress well. I've already briefly touched upon this. Dress well. I cannot stress the importance. And this is not even me waffling. Go through my videos. Go through every single video. Where have I ever dressed poorly? Dressing well is imperative, and I get this a lot from people. I'll dress well in basically a full suit, sometimes without a tie, just a top button undone, and I might just be in a park. And sometimes people will say, oh, Ken, what's the occasion? There is no occasion. The occasion is me, and it's not even me saying it in an arrogant way. The occasion is me. I don't dress for other people. I dress because I have respect for myself. I dress because I dress like a masculine individual. I don't need hoodies and tracksuit bottoms. That's not the type of man. That's not the type of individual that I am. Now, of course, I don't rock up to the gym in a tuxedo. I'm not absolutely lost in terms of my marbles. Luckily, they're intact. But dressing well is so good because you don't get a second chance at a first impression. You know, you don't know when you're going to meet your future wife. You might bump into her in a local supermarket. Now, imagine if you're dressed like a bum and you stunk. It's an alternative reality. It's an alternate timeline. You know, you just don't know who you're going to bump into. You might meet a guy and he might connect you with someone else and you end up starting a business together. But your first impression was impressive. It was inspirational because you dress well. And that is the first step. You don't get a second chance at a first impression. So very important, guys. A lesson that I learned at a young age. And finally, if you're dating women, always pay the date, guys. Always, especially the first date. Especially the first date. Never ever go 50-50. Never ever split the first date, especially as a man. You cannot talk about masculinity. You cannot talk about, oh, I want a feminine woman in my life who's affectionate and caring, but then you ask her to split the bill at the end, or you even have the audacity to get her to pay for the full thing, especially on the first date. If you're a man that's working, you must pay for the first date. And if you're going to sit here and say, yeah, but I can't afford it, it's too expensive, then you shouldn't even be dating in the first place. Don't be dating. Forget women, put them to one side. Women will always be there. They're never going to go. Put your head down, work hard. If you don't have a job, find a job. If you're studying, study extremely hard. Self-explanatory. These aren't new revelations or, you know, new phenomenon, so to speak. They're very trivial. A lot of people know this, but what I found recently is people are starting to overcomplicate the basics. Self-development isn't something to be overcomplicated. You do the things that I've just said, you will live a very fruitful life. You will end up accomplishing your goals if you do what I said on a consistent basis. That's the hard part, because most people won't do this on a consistent basis. But if you find a way to remain consistent, that is essentially the compound effect. I have just summarized the compound effect in 12 minutes. This is essentially what I've done. Do not neglect the bare minimums. Don't do this. By doing this on a consistent basis and ignoring the fluff, you will become successful in any future endeavor. So hopefully you found value from that. Make sure you smash the like button, subscribe, hit the bell notification, and I'll see all of you guys for my next video. Peace.